I do. I came to the very first ice show a long time ago, and I remember I met the one and only Dave Gentz, and I had not had any ties to the brands. I was here with my dad. I couldn't even drive, and I walked up to the ice fishing booth because there wasn't brands. It used to be the winter sports show, and there was one booth for ice fishing, believe it or not. And in the middle of it was Dave sitting on a table, and I went up to Dave, shook his hand. He gave me a hat and a pin. I have both of those to this day, and I remember telling myself and my father, I want to be a part of Ice Team someday. In fact, I then wrote an essay saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? A part of Ice Team. True story. So, and here we are.
Yeah, I was in Wisconsin, actually, with Dave Carlson, out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
What year was that, do you remember?
No.
I remember, I remember I can't remember because I did so many. When I first started, this show I remember, my in-laws brought fish at a resort, and people are talking about not having ice. They had ice, and they brought fish to the show. So they had fish that are frozen in the show, so people could see what they caught there, jumbo perch and other stuff and walleyes, and that was fun. And I've been at every one of these shows except for maybe one at the St. Paul Ice Show, and there's some other ones I like going to. I go to Sioux Falls because I've been going there for years. Heather and I were there when it was in a church, the middle of a church where they have gatherings and stuff in the back there, a cafeteria, to this big arena. But either way, love ice fishing, and I love people who ice fish. It's a community. On the water, I would never want to drive a boat up to any of these people. They might throw something at me. But on the ice, they welcome talking. For the most part, most of the people out there are fun to talk to. And the thing with ice fishing, there's no limitation on how many people can go.
I do, actually. One of the first years I was down here was probably, it's well over 20 years ago, and I was working the Strike Master booth with Randy Havel back in the day, and it was obviously just as packed as it is today, but more of a cottage industry. There wasn't a lot going on upstairs. It was more on the main floor. Hasn't changed a whole lot. You know, the excitement for ice fishing is here just like it was back then.
I do, actually. It's funny you say that. Yeah, I was a junior pro staff member for Markham, and I was selling stacks of Markhams next to stacks of Vexilars, and I remember it was so tense and heated back then, and it was a ton of fun. But yeah, that's going on 20 plus years ago.
My first ice show, yes, a long time ago. So Darren and I, years and years ago, 15 years plus years ago, in the forum world of fishingminnesota.com, we were moderators and staff members there, and many people, my code, if you want my discount code for 20% off at Cold Snap Outdoors, you use the code MUC33, MUC33. Back in the Fishing Minnesota days, I still use it. That's my nickname, Muck.
Yes, I do. My first ice show, I think I was 15 or 16. This is at the time when handy cams and GoPro 1 generations were first coming out. And I was walking around and I was helping out Clam or Vexilar trying to get just some short video clips. So besides that, I'd be working at Marine General or Tom Reed's, helping them sell Vexilars, and I don't think the show has really changed a whole lot just besides growing.
It's my first time making it to the biggest ice show in the world, I guess, right? So I haven't been here, so decided to make the drive down for one day.
My first ice show was in 2008, St. Paul Ice Show.
Been here a while, huh?
Absolutely.
I do. It's getting kind of fuzzy. It's probably 20 years ago. I was still in college coming out here. But yeah, I've been here a lot with Clam. We've been upstairs, we've been downstairs, we've been all over the place. So the best part is just seeing familiar faces and talking ice fishing.
Do I remember my first ice show? For Immaculate Tackle or working it for a different company? In general. Honestly, I do remember coming down here. I couldn't drive yet. I was excited about hearing about the show, and talked my dad into coming down here. And I remember kind of being overwhelmed because there's so much to see at this show. and it's the same thing. There's so much to see.
So were you younger or older than your kids now, do you think?
I was younger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think I was probably right around 11, 12 years old, and it started young.
Yeah, I was so young and green. I remember it's the first time I ever saw an escalator. I rolled my pants up to my knees. I thought I was going to get my legs pulled, like a grain auger. First time I hardly been out of North Dakota, and so first time I saw one-way roads. Yeah, so yeah.
Very cool.
Some of the first times, pretty big deal for a country bumpkin.
Yeah.
I get the same reaction.
So I've been actually coming to the St. Paul Ice Expo since I was 15 years old. I've only missed one, and that was weather related. And so I don't quite remember it, but one thing I do remember is I do remember this show only being the main floor. So there was no back room, there was no upstairs. There wasn't even ice castles here.
And just for reference, we got the main floor out here. We have all of this, and then we can still go up here to the next floor. So, yeah, that's really cool.
Yep.
Do you remember your first time?
My first Ice Expo, man, yeah, but it was a long time ago now. I think, we were coming in as we were dating, which is funny because now we're married and that feels like a long time ago. But it was always a ton of fun, always a ton of vendors, always a ton of learning and great conversations, and that's part of what we love about the expo.
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was tasked with working at Thorne Brothers because I had a good relationship with Thorne Brothers, and I was here with Vexilar. So I had to stand side by side trying to outsell because it was back during the Vexilar Markham Wars. I remember my first year well.
Yes.
You did?
It was in Illinois.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
at Pheasant Run, which isn't there anymore.
Started in the show right about in this area back in 2000 was my first booth here. Been here for quite a few years. I love coming back. It's the prime show of the year.
Do I remember my first ice show? That sounds like a personal question. I do remember my first ice show, and I got to tell you, it's kind of funny how the world works. When I first started with Liquid Woods 13 years ago, I thought, man, how fun working a show. Because you know what, I go to shows anyway. Well, I got to admit, after the first couple of years and doing about 6 shows a year, they're not as enjoyable as they used to be. But I'll tell you something, all kidding aside, I enjoy talking to people. There's a lot of buzz here. We need a good year for the ice fishing industry as a whole. The whole ice belt needs a good year. Just because the last couple of years have been a little bit light. Last year we had some tough weather. That was just warmer than normal. And the year before, if you remember, we had some of our best lakes had thin layer of ice and it got dumped on with snow. So we need to have a good year. And I'll tell you something, the ice is starting out really, really good.